Imagine running Apple. You lead the wealthiest company in history. You have a spaceship for a headquarters and a $3 trillion market cap. You sit at the top of the food chain, but then you wake up and realize your entire empire is a lie. That massive business? It's a luxury rented apartment. And the actual landlord is a tiny British firm most people have never heard of, operating out of a boring office building in Cambridge. They manufacture absolutely nothing. No factories, no silicon, no boxes on shelves. They sell permission. Or, to put it simply, they own the rules of the game everyone else is playing. They own the language the machines speak. The dictionary. Every chip is a brain, and every brain needs a language to think in. The old language, Intel's x86, is like heavy imperial English. It's powerful, but if you force a smartphone to think in it, it'll drain the battery and overheat in minutes. It's too heavy for a mobile world. Then came ARM. They invented a different language. It's the Esperanto of tech. Simple, ultra-efficient, and understood by billions of devices. Everything that runs on a battery, your phone, your watch, your car, thinks in ARM. And ARM is the only company on Earth that publishes the dictionary for this language. The scale of this setup is staggering. You, Tim Cook, cannot just make a brain for your new iPhone. You have the best engineers, sure, but you still have to go cap in hand to that office in Cambridge. And they'll tell you, "Of course, Sir Tim, here is the dictionary. That'll be $100 million just for the right to open the book. That's the license. And don't forget to pay us a royalty, a percentage of every single chip sold. Ciao." Apple pays, Samsung pays, everyone pays. With a $3 trillion valuation, Apple is just a tenant. If ARM faced a major disruption tomorrow, global electronics production wouldn't just slow down, it would face immediate paralysis. Genius born from constraints. The craziest part? This monopoly wasn't born in a Silicon Valley lab. It was born in 1980s Britain at a company called Acorn Computers. Acorn was so broke they couldn't afford to buy chips from Intel. They were backed into a corner. So their engineers did something radical. They decided to design their own. Because they had no money and zero R&D budget, they were forced to make the chip absurdly simple. They stripped away every unnecessary transistor. It wasn't genius by choice. It was efficiency by necessity. There's a famous story, possibly embellished over time, that when the team tested the first ARM prototype, it worked perfectly, even though they hadn't connected the main power supply. The chip was so efficient, it was running on tiny amounts of stray electricity leaking from other components. It was ghost power. That's when they knew they had a monster on their hands. A chip that barely needs to eat can go anywhere. Acorn eventually struggled, but they were saved by a 1990s company that was also on the brink of death. Apple. Apple needed a low-power chip for their first handheld device, the Newton. It was a commercial disaster, but it kept the ARM architecture alive. Later, Apple saved ARM again by buying their stock during the IPO, only to sell those shares later to save Apple itself from bankruptcy right before the iPod launch. Apple and ARM didn't just grow up together. They are the reason each other still exists. SoftBank. But wait, it gets deeper. In 2016, Masayoshi Son, the legendary head of SoftBank, decided he wanted to own the future. He reportedly met ARM executives for a 45-minute lunch on the Italian coast and offered $32 billion in cash. Why? Because he realized that in a world where everything is connected, from smart fridges to heart monitors, ARM is the toll booth for the entire planet. He bought the world's most powerful passive income stream. ARM generates billions in revenue simply by allowing others to innovate. But today, that love has turned into a high-stakes corporate soap opera. The tech giants hate ARM, the way a tenant hates a landlord who raises the rent every year. In 2020, Apple released the M1 chip, proving ARM could dominate even high-end PCs. But the truth is, the M1 is just the world's most sophisticated essay written in ARM's language. And this is where it gets dirty. In 2022, ARM sued Qualcomm, the guys who power almost every Android phone, over licensing terms. Understand the leverage. If ARM decides a company is no longer compliant, they can effectively freeze that company's technological roadmap for years. They are the gatekeepers of the digital age. The blocked deal. ARM is so vital that in 2020, when NVIDIA, the kings of AI, offered $40 billion to buy them, the entire tech industry lost its mind. Apple, Samsung, Google, and Qualcomm are usually at each other's throats. But this time, they united. They ran to regulators in the US, Europe, and China, screaming,
"No! God, please, no!"
Why? Because they realized if NVIDIA owned ARM, they'd own the rules. NVIDIA could decide who gets to make smartphone chips and who doesn't. Apple would be paying rent to its biggest competitor in the AI race. The deal was blocked. A tiny office in Cambridge was deemed more important to global stability than a $40 billion merger, the escape route. But every monopoly eventually sees a crack in the wall. Right now, that crack is called RISC-V. It's another architecture, but it's open source. It's free. No royalties, no landlord. For now, it's not an iPhone killer. ARM's ecosystem is a fortress. But nations and corporations are investing heavily in RISC-V to gain independence from Western licenses. Apple is already exploring RISC-V for secondary components inside their chips. Even NVIDIA is using it inside their graphics cards. It's a long-term sword of Damocles hanging over ARM's empire. The lesson? You don't need to build multi-billion-dollar factories to own the world. You don't even need to make the fastest chips. You just need to own the standards. Apple sells products. NVIDIA sells performance. But ARM sells permission. They didn't build the future. They just owned the language the future is written in. While everyone else is chasing raw power, ARM owns the dictionary. And tell me this, did you know your phone runs on a rented language? This is Broke Genius. See you in the next one.